Right, so Tom Aspinall, otherwise known as the UFC's heavyweight champion of the world, aka the baddest man on the planet, right? That's a fact. He's had double eye surgery, and this is a real shame. You saw the thumbnail, you saw the damage to the eyes, and I know a thing or two about this, so we're going to go through everything. Now, first of all, I mean, this is crazy. This fight happened with Ciryl Gane at UFC 321? I don't know, but it was October 25th, 2025, which is almost 4 months ago, right? They called it Brown syndrome. I'm not familiar with that, but his eyes couldn't focus or whatever. We've seen him all over social media initially at the time. You know, he was getting treated by the doctors and stuff, and now here we are. They said if it wasn't going to improve, then eventually he would need surgery, and lo and behold, here we are, right? When you look at that picture, which I'm doing right now, I mean, it's not nice to see. It really isn't. And it's not his fault, right? And I'm not defending Tom because I'm a friend of his. And I don't really even talk to Tom very much. We're not even friends like that. I was always an admirer of Tom's work. And I believed in his potential. A lot of people are talking shit because against Ciryl Gane, the fight was a competitive fight, okay? And then the eye pokes happened, and you can't deny the eye pokes. Simple as that. And people have always said, well, you don't say that you can't see. Well, that's all well and good unless you can't actually see. Because if you can't see, I think you're allowed to say, whoa, never mind the fight, I can't see. And then the crowd turned on him. And then this is where a lot of people are saying that he's milking it, okay? After the fight, you know, they showed footage at the hospital and getting looked at by the doctors, and everyone was like, oh, you're milking it. And then I'm going to go through some of the comments on Twitter in a minute. The same kind of thing there, right? And maybe he was, right? Maybe there was a little truth to that, because I understand it, by the way, because he wants to show the world, hold on a minute, I'm the victim here. I'm the guy that got poked in the eye. I'm not the person out there that's committing the fouls. I had two fingers rammed right down my eyeballs, knuckle deep, and now I can't see. And now, 4 months later, November, December, January, Feb, almost 4 months.
2 + 2 is 4, -1, that's 3, quick maths.
The man's had to have eye surgery. Remember, initially, it was, let's run it back. And I was dying to, because the fight was a close fight. And yeah, Tom's nose was busted up, and Ciryl Gane was looking really good. But as fans, is that not what we want? Do we not want to see exciting fights? Do we not want to see back and forth competitive matchups? Because that's what makes a fight the fight of the night. When somebody goes out there and smokes their opponent, runs right through them, which to be fair is what Tom Aspinall has done most of the time, right? That's a domination. That's one-way traffic. That's not a fight. That's someone just taking the piss and just wiping the floor with an opponent. We want to see legendary matchups as fans. We want to see good matchmaking. We want to see two guys that are the best in the world going toe-to-toe and pushing each other to the limit. And that's what we saw, right? It was a competitive matchup, but that's what you're supposed to have when you're fighting the best people on the planet. So it's not that he was looking for a way out. It's that he got double poked in the eye. And now, as we say, here we are, 4 months later, the man has had surgery. Not one, apparently he's had 2, right? And you can see the damage on the eyeballs, right? Anytime they mess with the eyes, I've had multiple eye surgeries, right? I lost my retina. You all know this story by now if you're new to the channel and you haven't seen this shit, right? Yeah, I lost an eyeball and I had a lot of surgeries. Now, granted, right, the way that I'm looking at this picture here is when we see Tom and he's lifting up his glasses and he's probably playing up to his social media guy, you know, but you can clearly see the damage, right? And nobody wants to have eye surgery, right? The eye surgery that I had initially was a scleral buckle, where they kind of take the eyeball out and then they put a silicone band all the way around the eye. But it's a very, very messy, unfortunate, painful business. Some people, as soon as you mention eyes, you don't want to touch your eyes. You don't want to get poked in the eye. You don't want to get a needle in the eye. And you certainly don't want to get your eyes operated on. And that is what Tom's had. And this is what a lot of the public fan base has had to say. Now, granted, this is on Twitter, right? And we know Twitter is a bit of a cesspool of negativity and toxicity, right? I'm sure if we looked at the Instagram comments, it'd be a little more positive. But look at these guys. First of all, Grok is this real? Come on, man. You really think the heavyweight champion of the world is out there? He's going to fake something like this? He's going to put some, like, I don't know, eye drops in his eyes and be playing a whole stunt? No, we all saw the eye pokes. We all saw the aftermath. We all saw the fallout. We all saw the appointments with the doctors. And now we're seeing 4 months later the fact that he's had surgery. But anyway, I digress. Let's carry on here at some of these comments because they are crazy. Hold on, Grok, tell me about this post. Biggest grift in all the combat sports. Talk about milking it. Is this AI? Is this real or fake? I've never seen someone get so much hate for something that he didn't even do. If anything, people should be more pissed at Ciryl Gane. And then underneath that, Tommy's milking this shit, but hey, it is what it is. He wanted out of the UFC and got his chance. Now he'll sue for a few mil, and that will be that. And we could go on all day. We could go through it, but you get the general consensus, you know. I mean, fake, they said, right, I don't know. Listen, at the end of the day, these guys are talking out their arse. What do you mean he wanted out? This man has worked his way up. The man became the interim heavyweight champion of the world by stepping up on short notice and taking out Sergey Pavlovich. Knocked him out cold in 69 seconds. All right, maybe not cold, but he certainly dropped him and dropped a few hammer fists. And that was that, right? And that's what he's done to the majority of his opponents. And yeah, you know, he had a couple of things that week with the DC and saying he was going to boxing and all that type of stuff. But at the end of the day, the fight was looking like a really, really good one. Now, I was excited for the rematch, and there's still been no talk of a rematch because, of course, there hasn't. How can you have a rematch when one half of the matchup is still going through medical clearance, still trying to get his vision back? And in fact, if we read out the actual statement from the doctor, this was an Instagram post, and this is what was written, but it was like written in third person. I think Tom shared it or something like that. It says, after his highly publicised eye poke injury, Optegra's expert team is proud to have supported MMA fighter and UFC heavyweight champion Tom Aspinall. Aspinall's doctors wrote on Instagram, over recent months, we've been working closely with him on his recovery. Following his operation on both eyes, we continue the journey to get Tom's vision back to fighting fitness, right? Now, let's talk about that. What is fighting fitness? Well, I know this very well. The benchmark for having fighting fitness is 2200 vision, which is still classed as clinically blind. Now, when you do an eye test, when you got one of those big charts, you got the top letter, then you get 2 letters underneath that, then there's maybe 4 underneath that, and they gradually get smaller and smaller and smaller till the little tiny ones at the bottom. And if you got 20/20 vision, boom, bish, bash, bosh, you'll smoke all of them. But 2200 vision, all you gotta get is the top letter, the big old massive one, and then the 2 relatively big ones underneath that. If you can read those 3 letters, you have 2200 vision. I know this because I cheated the eye test many, many times to go on and have my legendary career where I did end up in the Hall of Fame and with a few belts and stuff like that, right? So I know what I'm talking about. So to get Tom's vision back to fighting fitness means he's got to have 2200 vision and he's got to be able to focus his eyes, right? So clearly he's in good hands. These guys seem like very good professionals. They seem that they've done the surgery. The fact that they're talking about it online would say to me that the operation has been a success. So now it just is a matter of time before Tom to rest up, to heal from the surgery, and then come back and rematch Ciryl Gane. But how long will that be? Because the one thing that you can't do, and I've said this in multiple other videos, you cannot rush this. When you rush back too soon, things can go wrong. When you operate on something, you weaken it. Anytime you go in there and drill or cut and slice and mess about with it, you weaken it. So you have to allow it a lot of time to restore, to heal 100%. That can take a while. And that was why I've said in the past, maybe they do an interim title, because right now we're 4 months past when the injury happened and he's only just had the surgery. So what do you think? Are they going to do an interim title? First off, rest up, Tom. Hope you're well, mate. Enjoy the downtime. Ignore all the negative comments on Twitter and Instagram and all these dickheads online because they don't know what they're talking about at the end of the day. You'll be back at some point. I look forward to it. I look forward to the rematch with Ciryl Gane. And then you'll get used to all this shit again. Everyone coming out the woodwork and talking crap. Anyway, what do you guys think about everything that I just said? What do you think about Tom's situation? Do you think they're going to bring in an interim champion? Is it going to be Ciryl Gane versus Alex Pereira, something like that? I really don't know. But what do you think? As I say, always say, let me know in the comment section and subscribe. All that shit. I hate saying that at the end. It's like brainwashed into me now. Subscribe and ring the bell. I feel like such a dork when I say that, to use an American word. Such a wanker. Okay? But do it, because we're pushing up to 1 million subscribers. So thank you very much. Anyway, thanks for watching the video. See you later.